program Diploma 3, Keperawatan program Diploma 3, Farmasi program Sarjana, Keperawatan program Sarjana, Keperawatan Anestesiologi program Sarjana Terapan, Pendidikan Profesi Nurse, Pendidikan Profesi Apotekan. Dengan kurikulum terkini dan fasilitas yang memadai, kami siap membantu generasi muda mempersiapkan diri menjadi profesional kesehatan yang kompeten dan berintegritas dengan tetap fokus pada pengembangan keterampilan analitis, komunikasi, kewirausahaan, dan kepemimpinan. Kami menawarkan 3 program studi, yakni Hukum Program Sarjana, Akuntansi Program Sarjana, Manajemen Program Sarjana, dan Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris Program Sarjana yang tergabung dalam Fakultas Ilmu Sosial. Program ini akan membantu para generasi muda memaksimalkan potensi diri sehingga mampu secara mandiri memberikan kontribusi. Semuanya dimulai dengan satu harapan, sebuah pencarian tentang pengetahuan dan wawasan. Kami, Universitas Harapan Bangsa, tempat di mana pendidikan tinggi bertemu dengan cita-cita mulia para pendiri. Di sini, kami memandang pendidikan sebagai landasan untuk mewujudkan harapan dan memberdayakan individu yang dibuktikan dengan komitmen dan keseriusan. Dipenuhi dengan sumber daya manusia yang mandiri dan berbudaya, kami bertekad menjadi Center of Excellence dalam pengembangan ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi yang tidak sekedar menawarkan gelar akademis semata, melainkan sebuah perjalanan tentang pencarian jati diri yang membuahkan keberhasilan. Kami tidak berkata, tetapi kami berkomitmen. Universitas Harapan Bangsa di bawah naungan Yayasan Pendidikan Dwi Puspita dan kepemimpinan rektorat dari masa ke masa, kami peduli, memperhatikan, dan memberikan ruang bagi pertumbuhan pribadi serta profesionalisme. Di sini, kami tidak hanya belajar bersama, tetapi juga tumbuh sebagai satu keluarga. Kami mengerti arti pentingnya memberi dukungan, menginspirasi, dan menghargai satu sama lain. Inilah yang membuat kami kuat dan tangguh dalam menghadapi setiap tantangan. Karena di UHB ini bukan tentang aku, kamu, atau dia. Tapi ini semua tentang kita. Bersama-sama kita bentuk pondasi kebersamaan yang kokoh, yang menjadi landasan pengembangan diri dan kontribusi bagi masyarakat. Demi menjawab tantangan akan harapan dan minat generasi muda, kami memiliki 3 pilihan fakultas dengan total 14 program studi dalam Fakultas Kesehatan, Ilmu Sosial, dan Sains Teknologi. Di Fakultas Kesehatan, kami menyediakan berbagai pilihan program studi, mulai dari kebidanan program Diploma 3, Keperawatan program Diploma 3, Farmasi program Sarjana, Keperawatan program Sarjana, Keperawatan Anestesiologi program Sarjana Terapan, Pendidikan Profesi Nurse, Pendidikan Profesi Apotekan. Dengan kurikulum terkini dan fasilitas yang memadai, kami siap membantu generasi muda mempersiapkan diri menjadi profesional kesehatan yang kompeten dan berintegritas dengan tetap fokus pada pengembangan keterampilan analitis, komunikasi, kewirausahaan, dan kepemimpinan. Kami menawarkan 3 program studi, yakni Hukum Program Sarjana, Akuntansi Program Sarjana, Manajemen Program Sarjana, dan Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris Program Sarjana yang tergabung dalam Fakultas Ilmu Sosial. Program ini akan membantu para generasi muda memaksimalkan potensi diri sehingga mampu secara mandiri memberikan kontribusi serta manfaat bagi masyarakat. Tak ingin tergerus oleh derasnya bombardir kemajuan teknologi, Universitas Harapan Bangsa menyajikan program studi informatika, program sarjana, sistem informasi program sarjana, dan teknologi informasi program sarjana di Fakultas Sains dan Teknologi. sebagai garda terdepan dalam inovator teknologi, dibekali dengan fasilitas laboratorium yang lengkap dan tenaga pendidik yang mumpuni, kami siap sebagai katalisator generasi muda untuk mewujudkan harapan untuk menjadi seorang teknopreneur yang memiliki daya juang tinggi. Universitas Harapan Bangsa mendukung penuh generasi muda yang aktif dan inovatif dengan keragaman pemikiran dan kegiatan yang berbuah menjadi beragam apresiasi. Berada dalam jejaring nasional dan internasional, membuat Universitas Harapan Bangsa sebagai kolaborator yang berdedikasi pada luhurnya nilai-nilai pendidikan. Bergabunglah dengan kami di Universitas Harapan Bangsa dan ikut membentuk masa depan yang penuh harapan, di mana setiap individu dapat mencapai potensi terbaiknya, menjelajahi minatnya, dan memberikan kontribusi positif bagi masyarakat dan dunia. Melangkah pasti bersama Universitas Harapan Bangsa. Universitas Harapan Bangsa, mandiri dan berbudaya. Semuanya dimulai dengan satu harapan, sebuah pencarian tentang pengetahuan dan wawasan. Kami, Universitas Harapan Bangsa, tempat di mana pendidikan tinggi bertemu dengan cita-cita mulia para pendiri. Di sini, kami memandang pendidikan sebagai landasan untuk mewujudkan harapan dan memberdayakan individu yang dibuktikan dengan komitmen dan keseriusan. Dipenuhi dengan sumber daya manusia yang mandiri dan berbudaya, kami bertekad menjadi Center of Excellence dalam pengembangan ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi yang tidak sekedar menawarkan gelar akademis semata, melainkan sebuah perjalanan tentang pencarian jati diri yang membuahkan keberhasilan. Kami tidak berkata, tetapi kami berkomitmen. Universitas Harapan Bangsa di bawah naungan Yayasan Pendidikan Dwi Puspita dan kepemimpinan rektorat dari masa ke masa, kami peduli, memperhatikan, dan memberikan ruang bagi pertumbuhan pribadi serta profesionalisme. Di sini, kami tidak hanya belajar bersama, tetapi juga tumbuh sebagai satu keluarga. Kami mengerti arti pentingnya memberi dukungan, menginspirasi, dan menghargai satu sama lain. Inilah yang membuat kami kuat dan tangguh dalam menghadapi setiap tantangan. Karena di UHB, ini bukan tentang aku, kamu, atau dia. Tapi ini semua tentang kita. Bersama-sama, kita bentuk pondasi kebersamaan yang kokoh, yang menjadi landasan pengembangan diri dan kontribusi bagi masyarakat. Demi menjawab tantangan akan harapan dan minat generasi muda, kami memiliki 3 pilihan fakultas dengan total 14 program studi dalam Fakultas Kesehatan, Ilmu Sosial, dan Sains Teknologi. Di Fakultas Kesehatan, kami menyediakan berbagai pilihan program studi, mulai dari kebidanan program Diploma 3, keperawatan program Diploma 3, farmasi program sarjana, keperawatan program sarjana, keperawatan anestesiologi program sarjana terapan, pendidikan profesi nurse, pendidikan profesi apotekan. Dengan kurikulum terkini dan fasilitas yang memadai, kami siap membantu generasi muda mempersiapkan diri menjadi profesional kesehatan yang kompeten dan berintegritas dengan tetap fokus pada pengembangan keterampilan analitis, komunikasi, kewirausahaan, dan kepemimpinan. Kami menawarkan 3 program studi, yakni Hukum Program Sarjana, Akuntansi Program Sarjana, Manajemen Program Sarjana, dan Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris Program Sarjana yang tergabung dalam Fakultas Ilmu Sosial. Program ini akan membantu para generasi muda memaksimalkan potensi diri sehingga mampu secara mandiri memberikan kontribusi serta manfaat bagi masyarakat. Tak Tak ingin tergerus oleh derasnya bombardir kemajuan teknologi, Universitas Harapan Bangsa menyajikan program studi informatika, program sarjana, sistem informasi program sarjana, dan teknologi informasi program sarjana di Fakultas Sains dan Teknologi. Sebagai garda terdepan dalam inovator teknologi, dibekali dengan fasilitas laboratorium yang lengkap dan tenaga pendidik yang mumpuni, kami siap sebagai katalisator generasi muda untuk mewujudkan harapan untuk menjadi seorang teknopreneur yang memiliki daya juang tinggi. Universitas Harapan Bangsa mendukung penuh generasi muda yang aktif dan inovatif dengan keragaman pemikiran dan kegiatan yang berbuah menjadi beragam apresiasi. Berada dalam jejaring nasional dan internasional, membuat Universitas Harapan Bangsa sebagai kolaborator yang berdedikasi pada luhurnya nilai-nilai pendidikan. Bergabunglah dengan kami di Universitas Harapan Bangsa dan ikut membentuk masa depan yang penuh harapan, di mana setiap individu dapat mencapai potensi terbaiknya, menjelajahi minatnya, dan memberikan kontribusi positif bagi masyarakat dan dunia. Melangkah pasti bersama Universitas Harapan Bangsa. Universitas Harapan Bangsa, mandiri dan berbudaya. Semuanya dimulai dengan satu harapan, sebuah pencarian tentang pengetahuan dan wawasan. Kami, Universitas Harapan Bangsa, tempat di mana pendidikan tinggi bertemu dengan cita-cita mulia para pendiri. Di sini, kami memandang pendidikan sebagai landasan untuk mewujudkan harapan dan memberdayakan individu yang dibuktikan dengan komitmen dan keseriusan. Dipenuhi dengan sumber daya manusia yang mandiri dan berbudaya, kami bertekad menjadi Center of Excellence dalam pengembangan ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi yang tidak sekedar menawarkan gelar akademis semata, melainkan sebuah perjalanan tentang pencarian jati diri yang membuahkan keberhasilan. Kami tidak berkata, tetapi kami berkomitmen. Universitas Harapan Bangsa di bawah naungan Yayasan Pendidikan Dwi Puspita dan kepemimpinan rektorat dari masa ke masa, kami peduli, memperhatikan, dan memberikan ruang bagi pertumbuhan pribadi serta profesionalisme. Di sini, kami tidak hanya belajar bersama, tetapi juga tumbuh sebagai satu keluarga. Kami mengerti arti pentingnya memberi dukungan, menginspirasi, dan menghargai satu sama lain. Inilah yang membuat kami kuat dan tangguh dalam menghadapi setiap tantangan. Karena di UHB, ini bukan tentang aku, kamu, atau dia. Tapi ini semua tentang kita. Bersama-sama, kita bentuk pondasi kebersamaan yang kokoh, yang menjadi landasan pengembangan diri dan kontribusi bagi masyarakat. Demi menjawab tantangan akan harapan dan minat generasi muda, kami memiliki 3 pilihan fakultas dengan total 14 program studi dalam Fakultas Kesehatan, Ilmu Sosial, dan Sains Teknologi. Di Fakultas Kesehatan, kami menyediakan berbagai pilihan program studi, mulai dari kebidanan program Diploma 3, keperawatan program Diploma 3, farmasi program sarjana, keperawatan program sarjana di setiap tantangan. Karena di UHB, ini bukan tentang aku, kamu, atau dia. Tapi ini semua tentang kita. Bersama-sama, kita bentuk fondasi kebersamaan yang kokoh, yang menjadi landasan pengembangan diri dan kontribusi bagi masyarakat. Dan akan harapan dan minat generasi muda, kami memiliki 3 pilihan fakultas dengan total 14 program studi dalam Fakultas Kesehatan, Ilmu Sosial, dan Sains Teknologi. Di Fakultas Kesehatan, kami menyediakan berbagai pilihan program studi, mulai dari kebidanan program Diploma 3, keperawatan program Diploma 3, Farmasi program sarjana, keperawatan program sarjana, keperawatan anestesiologi program sarjana terapan, pendidikan profesi nurse, pendidikan profesi apoteker. Dengan kurikulum terkini dan fasilitas yang memadai, kami siap membantu generasi muda mempersiapkan diri menjadi profesional kesehatan yang kompeten dan berintegritas dengan tetap fokus pada pengembangan keterampilan analitis, komunikasi, kewirausahaan, dan kepemimpinan. Kami menawarkan 3 program studi, yakni Hukum Program Sarjana, Akuntansi Program Sarjana, Manajemen Program Sarjana, dan Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris Program Sarjana yang tergabung dalam Fakultas Ilmu Sosial. Program ini akan membantu para generasi muda memaksimalkan potensi diri sehingga mampu secara mandiri memberikan kontribusi serta manfaat bagi masyarakat. Tak ingin tergerus oleh derasnya bombardir kemajuan teknologi, Universitas Harapan Bangsa menyajikan program studi informatika, program sarjana, sistem informasi program sarjana, dan teknologi informasi program sarjana di Fakultas Sains dan Teknologi. Sebagai garda terdepan dalam inovator
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our session. We will now begin the panel session. In the sessions, we will have several activities, including presentations from our speakers, followed by a question and answer sessions, and finally, the closing of day 1. The session will start with an opening, followed by speaker 1, and continued by the next speakers. After all presentations, we will proceed to the Q&A sessions. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to hand over these sessions to Dr. Nurul Hasana, Bachelor of Education and Master of Linguistics from Polytechnic Negeri Sambas, who will guide us throughout the panel session. To Dr. Nurul Hasana, the time is yours.
Macet nggak, Mem? Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Master of Ceremony for guiding us through the opening of this event. Distinguished speakers, respected panelists, dear audience, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nurul Hasana, and I will be serving as the moderator for this panel session. Before we begin with the speaker's presentation, allow me to briefly introduce the context of today's panel discussion. This session brings together diverse perspectives and expertise to explore key issues and emerging trends related to our topic. The discussion is expected to provide not only theoretical insight, but also practical implications that can contribute to the advancement of research and community. We are pleased to have our 4 amazing speakers with us this afternoon. Each of them will share their thoughts and experiences from different perspectives, which I believe will make this discussion more comprehensive and engaging. Each speaker is allocated 15 minutes for their presentation, and the Q&A session will be started after all speakers deliver the research. So without further delay, I would like to invite our first speaker, Dr. Trang Le from Van Lang University, Vietnam. Dr. Trang Lee is an English lecturer with over 10 years of teaching experience. Having been an English learner herself, she understands the challenges and demand of language learning. This perspective shapes her teaching philosophy, which focuses on empathy, practical strategies, and creating engaging learning environment for students. Today, she will present her research entitled Teaching English Without Teaching English. To Ms. Trang Lee from Van Lang University, Vietnam, the time is yours.
So now I'm gonna share my screen with everyone, so right? Okay, so good day, everyone. Before I start my presentation, I would like to introduce a little bit about myself, so you know who's talking. My name is Jane, and I've been working as a quality assurance at Van Lang University for around 5 years, and I hold a master's degree in applied linguistics from Cotton University. I have over 10 years of experience teaching English to all kinds of learners, ranging from 6-year-old children to adult learners in their 60s. And over the past 5 years, I've had the opportunities to work more closely with university students and contribute to the development of the curricula in order to help the students achieve their IELTS goals. It is truly an honor for me to be here today and talk about my insights and also experiences when it comes to teaching English. Okay. I'd like to start my presentation with this picture. You know, I came across it a couple of years ago while scrolling through social media, and it made me reflect a lot on my teaching career. The message is very simple. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. You know, in my late 20s, when I first worked at Van Lang University, I was given the opportunity to train the students to get an IELTS 5.5. For some people, an IELTS 5.5 may seem doable. It's not a difficult target, but the group of students that I worked with had very low level of English. And in many ways, it felt like I was training someone from zero to hero. At first, I thought that if I worked a little harder, if I put a lot more effort into teaching, then I would achieve a desirable outcome. However, I was so wrong. What I experienced instead was self-doubt, disappointment, and sometimes even frustration. And over time, I realized that instead of pushing the students to constantly learn English, I should do something different, you know, something that will genuinely interest them and make learning English as invisible as possible. And I'll explain my idea a little more clearly in the rest of my presentation. Okay, so first, I will briefly talk about the context and the background so that you will better understand why changes are necessary and what adjustments have been made to the program as a whole. And then I'll move on talking about the key outcomes in the 2024-2025 academic year, followed by some future directions in order to further improve our programs. Okay. So our partner university require the students to get an IELTS 5.5 with no band score below 5 within a limited time frame. And the students who come to us have very different levels of English. You know, some students, they have fairly good command of English. So all they need is proper guidance in order to better understand the IELTS test format and strategies. However, there are also a group of students who start at a much lower level, I would say around A2. And this is also the most difficult group of students to work with because they often have very low motivation to learn English and they do not commit to attending classes regularly. Another thing that I would like to point out is that they are more into the core subjects, you know, the modules that are directly linked to their chosen career. And so they neglect English classes. We only have 9 months to train them, which means that the learning process has to be very intensive, and yet not many of them are willing to devote as much time and effort into learning. And this creates a significant challenge for us as educators. Regarding the English programs at Van Lang Global School, it consists of around 5 English levels. The first 2 levels are like, it mainly focus on building a strong foundation for the students, while the rest would focus more on showing them how to deal with the IELTS test, like familiarize themselves with the test formats and strategies. And for those who are ready to take the IELTS test, we also offer an intensive IELTS course. And for your information, this is totally free of charge. Outside the classroom, we also offered other support activities. For example, we design some practice exercises on our virtual learning environment. We organize English speaking club, and then we also offer one-on-one tutoring sections. Our initial assumption was that if sufficient support and learning opportunities were provided, then they would eventually help the students get the IELTS 5.5 with no band score below 5. However, the reality hit me really hard. Only a small number of students engaged in these activities, and as a result, nearly 35% of my students had to take the leave of absence, and this is a staggering figure, and it also clearly indicated that a change was necessary. So, removing the English courses was never an option. What we could reconsider instead was changing our additional support. And the very first change that we made was stop implementing the traditional English exercises on our VLE, because no matter how much we emphasize the importance of learning English at home, they did not complete those exercises. So why carry on anyway? And since we understood that the students are more motivated to improve their grades in their core modules, we decided to redesign our VLE. We created weekly tasks directly linked to the core modules. For example, in these tasks, we would introduce the key vocabulary, which will help them understand the lesson better. We also ask them to watch interactive videos. And again, this exercise is to help them improve their listening skills and reinforce the vocabulary introduced earlier. And the last thing is the quizzes. The quizzes function as a concept checking questions, it's gonna help them. And again, we deliberately reuse the vocabulary that we introduced earlier. And our belief is that sufficient exposure to the same set of vocabulary in the meaningful contexts will eventually facilitate the process of retention and language acquisition. Another change that we made was replacing the English speaking club with series of career talk with industry professionals. The English speaking club itself would suggest that the students would have to study English, which may sound tedious and may discourage them from attending. However, these career talks have proven to be much more engaging because they can learn more about career development and thus higher attendance rate. And we are also very lucky to partner with the Level Up organization. Every year they will send a group of, let's say, 5 or 6 American professionals to come to Vietnam, and they will deliver some workshops or coffee talks with Vietnamese students in order to equip them with some work-related skills, and those skills that will help them excel in their future career. And these workshops and coffee talks are very important to us, and I think they're very valuable because it can help them practice active listening and engage in small talk with the guest speakers. These skills are highly beneficial when it comes to preparing for the IELTS test. And in the academic year 2024-2025, we have we witnessed a significant improvement. Nearly 90% of our students achieved the target score compared to 65 in the previous semester, in the previous academic year. And I'm not suggesting that we are really successful. I mean, there are a lot of factors contributing to this achievement, but what I would suggest is that the changes that we made are moving us in the right directions. And that's also the reason why I really want to further explore the potential of implicit English learning. The very first thing that we have in mind is training our students to be tour guides for exchange students. Every year we will have a couple of exchange students who come to our campus and study for a semester. And if we can train them as tour guides, they will have a chance to practice speaking English. It will help them improve their confidence in speaking. And again, they would have a chance to form international friendships, and maybe they can improve their listening skills and also vocabulary and everything. Another thing that we have in mind is trying to expand our network of partner universities so that we can host more cultural events. And then we also have things like campus tours, campus visits. So this is also a way for them to interact with peers from many different cultural backgrounds. And I believe that such authentic interactions would help the students improve their English, and it would serve as a strong motivation for them to learn English naturally. So again, I'm not suggesting that what we're doing is the perfect solution to our problem. For me, teaching English is pretty much the process of trial and error. It's an ongoing cycle, and I believe that this is also the beauty of this profession. Every day we're faced with new challenges, and then we try to adapt and evolve. Okay. And this is also the reason why conferences like this are very helpful, because they bring together so many experts and practitioners in the field who are willing to share their insights, their experiences, and their effective teaching practices. And, I've learned a lot from the previous presentations, and I truly appreciate the chance to be a part of this wonderful conference. And thank you so much for listening. And I do hope that we can share some conversations regarding language teaching. And I look forward to future conversations with you. You can always contact me by email. Okay, thank you so much for listening, and until next time.
Okay, thank you very much for your insightful presentation, Dr. Trang Lee. That was very informative and provided valuable perspective for us. Now, we move on to our second speaker, Dr. Alka Singh from Lucknow University, India.
Esteemed members of the conference, may I just confirm the organizing team members that am I visible and audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I would just request to share the presentation that was submitted to the scene. Actually, due to some error, it is not working. The screen, I'm unable to share the screen. So may I request you to keep sharing the slides, and so here with the it is my privilege indeed to be one of the panel speakers for this very important and pertinent seminar which talks about the sustainable education and the future of sustainable education, where it opens at the same time a lot of global learning opportunity that bridges the excellence for the future. Esteemed members, colleagues, distinguished participants, and the organizing committee of the university, I would here begin sharing my views on language in literature, recognizing meaningful discourses to sustainable education and legal studies. Here I just want to give an outline where I would say that, you know, in the present phase of interdisciplinary education, interdisciplinary approaches that we adopt specifically to English language teaching, and the intersection of language, and then the intersection of language with so many other academic disciplines, intersection of language, literature, and specifically I would be clubbing it with the legal studies, the education of law in the country, in India, and wide across the globe, that offers a fertile ground for advancing sustainable education so far as interconnected world for a sustainable future is concerned. So with the changing definitions, with the changing dimensions of literature being one of the important disciplines that encompass almost all existing narratives, and has the capability to look forward to the imaginary and the other possible alternative disciplines, where on the one hand it provides cultural memory and ethical imagination, and on the other hand it provides discourses that shape a value of justice, equity, and sustainability. So while talking about the legal education and taking the inputs from legal education, I would say that through this discipline we are capable of articulating the values that come from the frameworks of rights, human rights, the rights associated with the other creatures on the planet, and the responsibility, and of course the governance. So this particularly here, when the slide is highlighting about the interdisciplinary approaches, language, literature, and law intersection, I am, of course, looking forward for a more potent, sustainable future through education, where it is here that researchers, students, and teachers would explore how recognizing, meaningful discourses in literary text, ranging from the narratives of resistance and reform to exploration of identity and justice, can enrich English language education by fostering critical thinking, as I put up on my slide that talks about the agenda for such researches. If I can, if we may please have the slide talking about the agenda, I would be thankful. So here I am talking about the fostering of critical thinking, global competence, the honorable speakers in their keynote address in the morning also talked about the global competence and civic responsibility that is an automatic come out of such insights while clubbing language, literature, and law. So, by integrating literary analysis with the legal perspectives, the study would demonstrate how language education would move beyond functional literacy to cultivate interpretive, ethical, and intercultural capacities essential for the sustainable future. And therefore I would argue in my this particular research that the literature's dialogic engagement with law, whether through through constitutional ideals of any specific statute, or that through the human rights narratives or environmental justice discourses, provides learners with a holistic framework for understanding the complexities of global citizenship. So the study actually highlights the role of technology as well. I have talked about not only the literature's role, not only the next slide, maybe please, maybe have the next slide, please, and the role of law, where particularly the legal studies and its domain is concerned, how it plays its role, and then the role of technology. I have talked about the role of technology as well, that amplifies these discourses, the discourses of dealing in literature in association with the legal perspectives in literature, and that would perhaps enable the readers, scholars, teachers dealing in English education to collaborate, cross-cultural exchanges, and strengthen professional development and international scholarly dialogue. So it actually positions language in literature not merely as aesthetic expression, but it's transformative discourse, but it's role as a transformative discourse actually bridges the culture, law, and education. And such an approach aligns with the vision of sustainable future by nurturing learners who are critically aware, ethically grounded, and globally competent. Um, so today it is a potent forum where so many scholars all across have hailed together to talk about the intersections regarding the global competence, regarding civic responsibilities, regarding sustainable future education. I am presenting this particularly with a lot of hope to that exist in that exists or that has made its existence in a very potential manner, when as a reader, as teachers, we are recognizing meaningful discourses to a sustainable education and legal studies. So literature as cultural memory and ethical imagination, as I said, is not merely aesthetic expression, but it is a repository of cultural memory, and I would say rather a vehicle for ethical imagination. So narratives of resistance and reform reminds us of the struggles that the creatures that humans did for justice, stories of identity and belongingness that help us to understand diversity, and the text, be it of any domain, when we take it under the literary text, this explores justice and equity and challenges us to rethink our responsibility towards a sustainable future. So through literature, learners engage with discourses that value justice, equity, and sustainability. And it is here that language becomes more than communication. It becomes a transformative discourse. And whereas law as framework for justice and sustainability as part of legal education articulates these values and rights, responsibilities, and governance. And we find that it is capable enough, it is competent as part of the textual discourses to motivate and elevate the spirit of the receptors in seeing law as a provider to the structure for equity and sustainability, and it therefore translates ethical imagination into enforceable frameworks. And it also ensures that justice is not only an idea but a lived reality. And when literature and law, they are studied together, when they are clubbed together, they actually offer a holistic framework for understanding the complexities of global citizenship. So I would say that the integration, while this integration is being talked about in taking education and moving education beyond functional literacy, we are actually focusing on critical thinking, which is about the ability to question, the ability to have unusual insights, and the ability to and analyze. The honorable speakers and the members, they have already talked about and taken up inputs to add up to global competence, which is an ability to engage cross-cultural communication. And this is how it yield to civic responsibility, that is the commitment to justice and sustainability. For example, if I have to take certain illustrations, I would say, you see, the constitutional ideals, for example, they are reflected in the literary text. Human rights narratives, they are embedded in the novels, in plays, and even in poetry. That is, different genres of the literary text, they talk about human rights concerns and human rights narratives. And similarly, environmental justice discourses in poetry and drama are immensely important to a sustainable education and the future of interdisciplinary approaches and the connections that exist across domains that enrich English language education and making it actually a dialogue between culture and law, or I mean legal studies. As I have already said, that when we are taking it along with the technology, specifically in today's digital age, it actually amplifies the ability to collaborate. For instance, as we have this particular international conference where we all have come together on a singular platform to make up for the cross-cultural exchanges that strengthen professional development and international scholarly dialogue in making education more viable and feasible, and also allowing learners to engage with global perspective in real time. So thus technology becomes a bridge, and it ensures the values of the human values and standard values and the notion of the rights, justice, and responsibilities in literature and law, and would perhaps reach a wider audiences that would definitely contribute to sustainable future. So the vision of sustainable education is actually not limited to skills, as has been often talked about while taking up language teaching or pronunciation, where we talk about the gestures and paralinguistic features, the tone, the intonations associated with the speaking part, but also the ability to deliberate and analyze various domains in the literary text as well, would nurture the learners to critically be aware of social and cultural complexities, and making them ethically grounded in values of justice and equity, and of course would provide globally competent scholars to engage with diverse communities. So, language in literature, when aligned with legal perspectives, that becomes a transformative discourse that bridges culture, law, and education. And that is why, as part of my concluding slide, I've been putting in certain few points that this intersection of language, literature, and law is not just an academic exercise, it's not just a rubric to a pathway to sustainable future, but when we start analyzing, when we start recognizing meaningful discourses across various distinguished features of the law that regulate human behavior, that regulate standard practices of equity and justice, then the integration, then this interconnectedness that cultivate in learners, a future, a sustainable future to face challenges of global citizenship. So let us try to accommodate, and let us see this fertile and viable and visible position of literature, not merely as an art, as an aesthetic pleasure, but also as a dialogic engagement with law, legal studies, and society, that is the sociological conditioning of the mind of an individual, nurturing a generation that is critically aware, ethically responsible, and globally competent. So thank you so much. If any question, it is most welcome to me. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your expertise with us, Dr. Al-Qasim. We truly appreciate your idea and perspective in language and literature. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our third speaker comes from Politeknik Negeri Sambas, Dr. Ira Mutiara Ningrum, Master of Education. Dr. Ira Mutiara Ningrum is an English lecturer at Politeknik Negeri Sambas, Indonesia. She earned her doctoral degree in digital multimodal composing at Universitas Negeri Semarang. Her research focused on digital multimodal composing, technology-assisted language learning, and pedagogical translanguaging, particularly within the context of vocational higher education. In addition to English and research activities, Dr. Ira Mutiara Ningrum serves as co-chief editor of Journal of English Education Program at Universitas Tanjung Pura, Pontianak. Dr. Ira also actively involved as reviewer for various national and international journals, contributing to the development and quality assurance of scholarship publication in the field of English language education. She actively published articles in accredited national journal as well as reputable international journal indexes in Scopus. Today, she will be present her research entitled From Passive to Productive, a best practice of translanguaging in multimodal business communication in vocational English foreign language classroom. To Dr. Ira Mutiara Ningrum, you may begin the presentation. Okay, I'm so sorry because it was mute. May I repeat it again? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the Rector and the Vice Rector of Universitas Harapan Bangsa, Profesor Dr. Yuris, Ibu Martiarini PhD, and Ibu Tri Pujiani as the chief of this conference. I'd like to also express my appreciation to the keynote speakers and panel speakers for this conference. And my appreciation goes to the host and co-host of this conference. It's an honor for me to be here today to share my best practice in the vocational higher educations in this border area of Indonesia by integrating translanguaging and multimodal business communications. All right, first, before we come to the presentations, I'd like you to see a video created by my students. I think, okay, can you help me to play the video? Please, Mr. Sirot, help me to play the video. Oh. Nggak ada. It's okay.
Green landscapes. You can also visit my name is Rizda Triwidzandriani. Ini videoku tentang Experience the Beauty of Susur Sungai Sambas. Pengen travel experience yang penuh cerita? Yuk ikut! Susur Sungai Sambas is the perfect way to enjoy the natural beauty and unique culture of West Kalimantan. As you cruise along, you'll be treated to scenic views of rumah tradisional di atas sungai, friendly local activities, and refreshing green landscapes. You can also visit iconic attractions seperti Istana Al-Wazir Billah Sambas, Masjid Jami Muhammad Sultan Syafruddin, serta the iconic Sambas Bridge. Wisata ini cocok untuk family trips, students, dan konten kreator. Pemandangannya cantik banget kan? Ajak teman dan keluargamu to enjoy a fun and unique river adventure di dekatmu. Bye-bye!
Can you see my screen? Yes. All right. So after watching the video, do you remember how many languages does she use in this video? Can someone help me to recall the languages that the author of the video used? Three. Okay. What about Bapak Ibrahim? Raising hand. Okay, so everyone in this session think that she uses 3 languages. Okay, so that's it what I'm going to share you today, because I'm from a place in the border area of Indonesia and Malaysia, and we have low proficiency students, and we also seldom use English. That's why this is one of the best practices that I use in my classroom to help students to use English by combining or translanguaging different languages, particularly in using Bahasa Indonesia and Bahasa Daerah, which is Malay, so it will be easier and fun for them to use English. Okay, so these are the activities or the session or the subsection that I'm going to share you today. All right, so I'm going to tell you first about the background of the place where I teach. I teach in Polytechnic Negeri Sambas, which is, you can say this is remote area, and that's why students here doesn't have, like chance to speak English outside the classroom. That's why it encourage the teacher or the lecturer or the instructor to use grammar-based learning. And this make the low engagement and participations. And this like a cycle, like a circle. So it's kind of never-ending process of low proficiency students. That's why I, in this semester, use some projects in my class to foster language use, which is inclusive, that I also include the language they are comfortable with. I use project design in the form of business proposals, professional videos, translanguaging-based discussions, as well as translanguaging-based peer feedback. All right. Before I go to the activities, I'm going to share a bit about the multimodal learning that I use. So I use the theories from Kress and Van Leeuwen. In this context, my multimodal learning is about the integrations of different semiotic resources for meaning making. It means that I allow the students to use different modes, for example, visual, oral, gestural, and so on and so forth. And then I also combined the multimodal learning with translanguaging. If you know code switching, of course, you are not unfamiliar with translanguaging, because it is a planned instructions in structured way to support language learning. So translanguaging is not simply code switching that we switch between language, but it's a process
where the students are aware that they use certain language that can construct the meaning. Sometimes some vocabulary in Bahasa Indonesia or some vocabularies in English or Malay are more suitable for certain context, and that's what I mean by translinguaging in my context. And then we also use the project-based learning that is written in the regulations of Indonesia, because in Indonesia now we are encouraging vocational higher education to implement project-based learning, and these are the stages that I use. All right, this is the first project that I implement in the class, which is making business proposal. So I only provide them some components that they need to put on the proposal, and this is the examples of the proposal that my students made. They use market analysis, funding stages, strategy, and competitive edge and competitive advantage. They can use different vocabularies as long as they still manage to include all of the requirement that I put on their task. And then after they made the proposal, they were required to present the proposal in the form of Canva presentation. So everyone in the class should make an individual presentation using Canva. These are the examples of their presentations, very multimodal, very colorful, and very engaging. After that, I asked them to create mini vlog using translanguaging. They combine the language. As you see on the video that I showed you before, that the students may use Bahasa Indonesia, English, or Malay that they use every day. And they need to put a strong closing or call to actions at the end of the video. And they can use the format like portrait or landscape like this. The durations of the video is 2 minutes. If you want to see the details of my activity, I put it on my paper that you can see after on the proceeding, because I put it on the proceeding. And then after that, I asked them to discuss their activities on the Google Classroom. They may use
Recording in progress.
As you can see in the class comments, they translate between English, Bahasa Indonesia, and Malay here. And I didn't stop there. I continue to ask them to upload the video on YouTube, and then ask the students to give the feedback for the video. And you can see that students were very active commenting on YouTube, because they like everything about the digitalizations. Every time you ask them to use Canva, YouTube, or TikTok, Instagram, they were very, very, very motivated. That's why, as you can see, that the reply are very meaningful. It's not just giving compliments, but they also try to add some, suggestion to repair the video. Okay, and these are the outcomes after the treatments or interventions in the classroom. I asked them to fill the questionnaire, the open-ended questionnaire, and it turns out that they told me that translanguaging combined with multimodal learning is very helpful for their learning, because they are comfortable in using technology, and it supports them in understanding the discussions. It also helps them to clarify their ideas in discussion forum as well as in making the video. However, there are some challenges in using translanguaging. They say that because they had limited English proficiency, they kind of depend on Bahasa Indonesia and Malay a lot, because they only use English, like certain vocabularies, they are really familiar with them. And it was hard for them to mix the local context and cultural wisdom in English, because there are some vocabularies that are very difficult to translate, even if they use Google Translate. And then they also kind of a bit difficult in putting the context in the communication situations, because you see that the activities are sometimes in the classroom, sometimes they need to go out for practicum, and students are a bit difficult when they have to, use relevant vocabularies that is suitable for the context. For example, in the classroom, perhaps I teach a lot about the formal vocabularies, but once they use translanguaging, they shift into informal vocabularies, and that kind of register is difficult for them. All right. So, although there are some challenges during my implementations of translanguaging and multimodality, it shows that this integration is very promising for the future of English language teaching, and I hope that the future instructor, or in this occasion, I'm sure that there are lots of prospective English teacher in the future. I suggest you to combine translanguaging and multimodality to improve accessibility of the language, so students can use all English, all language repertoire that they have, and combine multimodality so they can orchestrate all the modes that they can use, because sometimes pictures speaks louder than words, right? All right, so I hope that in the future that multimodal learning and translanguaging can be considered to be in the curriculum, and I hope that Indonesia can embrace inclusivity in English language learning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ira, for the excellent presentation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, finally we have reached to our last speakers, Mr. Edi Swandi, PhD from Harapan Bangsa University. Mr. Edi having completed doctoral studies, his academic and professional work integrates both theoretical and practical perspective. His current research focuses on integration
Okay, thank you, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good afternoon, everyone. And good afternoon to my fellow educators. It is great, honored to be here today to share my reflection on English language teaching in the context international, specifically in Taiwan. This presentation explores the intersection between the cultures and the teaching practice, and also the global competence in English language education, that particularly shaping my own knowledge. Okay. The next. Okay. When we talk about the teaching a global, we talk about the global teachers. The global teachers here is the teachers who integrate the global perspective into the teaching, who integrate the global perspective in the local classroom, and also the promotes the cultural understanding and the global awareness with aligns global education principle. So the concept of the global teachers extends beyond the geographical mobility. So in this sense, the teaching becomes not merely the transmission of knowledge, but the facilitation of meaningful engagement across the cultures. In my experience, suggests that becoming a global teacher is less about where one teaches, but more about how one interprets, how adapt, how respond, and how we respect for the culture diversity within the learning environment. Next, please. Okay. This a sample from the course of Asia that's already has some of the program for the Global English Teachers Program. They have like from the Japan, they has the JET, the program, Japan Exchange, the teaching program, and also the South Korea also has the program, the English program in Korea, and the Taiwan. It has two programs such as like Taiwan English Foreign Teachers Program, TEFTP, and also English Language Teaching Assistant. And the last one from the Vietnam, there's also National Foreign Language Teachers. This program indicates that the critical shift in how English is conceptualized, not as the exclusive for the native speakers, but also the global medium of communication. So me as the example that from Indonesia also can teach in the abroad, specifically in Taiwan. So this importantly, this initiative increasingly recognize the value of non-native speakers like Indonesia here. They were challenging the traditional assumption about the linguistic authority. So from this perspective, the teaching effectiveness is no longer determined by the native speakers, but by pedagogical competence, intercultural awareness, and how to facilitate students to communicate with diverse contexts. So I want to specifically share my experience during join the English language teaching assistant. In Taiwan, actually, it has some of the program. One of the program is English language teaching assistant program, and I just want to share English language teaching assistant that I have already been there for 2022 to 2025. And in the picture, you can see that the students really enthusiastic, really excited to be in my class. I also teach actually in there it's not about it's not only about the teaching English, a specific subject, the English subject, but also it is also in the class art, and also there are some of the foreign teachers, such as like from the Thailand, from the Philippines, from the Vietnam, from the Malawi, and from the India also. And here is my experience. I just want to focus on the cultures and also the global competence, how the cultures can academically can shape English language learning, and also how the global competence will teach the students to respect, to openness, to collaboration, and adaptability to develop through language education. So the future of education is strongest when the learners can communicate with different contexts. So the culture set the learnings. The students learn language through norm, language through routines, language to expectation and relationship. The cultures influence how they participate, how they respond, how they make meaning quietly. So this is one of the most profound insight from my teaching experience, really, in that the culture fundamentally shape how learning occurs. the language learning is not an isolated cognitive process. It is influenced by social norm deeply in the classroom activity and also the relational dynamic. For instance, I observed that the students in Taiwan often demonstrate high level of discipline and also the respect, yet were sometimes hesitant to express their ideas spontaneously. So this highlights the need for culturally responsive pedagogy, where teaching strategies are adapted to align with the learner's cultural expectation while expanding their communicative confidence gradually. So here is what about the culture like in the elementary classroom, specifically in my classroom. When we talk about the culture in education, it's often discussed about the abstract concept. However, in my classroom, I can see, so it's not a visible, it's not a abstract, but it is a visible. I can see how the students respond. I can see how the students interact. I can see how the students participate in my learning. So uh, the example is the culture shape how the students react to the instructions. In some contexts, maybe the students might immediately respond and ask the question, while in others they may wait, they observe, and also they follow more structured guidance. It is also influence interactions. Some of the students feel comfortable to speak. Some of the students maybe they prefer uh, to wait and see. So in my teaching experience in Taiwan, I observed that the students were respectful and attentive, but sometimes hesitant also to speak spontaneously. This is not about the lack of ability, but a reflection how the culture's norm in communication. This how that the culture is present in everyday classroom practice, in behaviors, in participation and expectation. Therefore, understanding cultures allow teachers to create more inclusive and effective learning environment. And uh, and when we talk about the culture in educations, a culture also mediates how the students interpret instructions, how the students engage in interaction, how the students construct their identity as the language users. So what is considered active participation in one context may be perceived different in another's. Therefore, teaching English requires an awareness of these subtle yet significant cultural dimensions. It involves creating a learning environment where the student feels safe, where the students feel comfortable, where the students can make a mistake, where the students can take the risk, and also develop their voice as a user of English. And we move to the global competence. The global competence begin when the learners can communicate with respect, begin when the students can openness, begin when the students can adaptability. So the global competence can be understood as the capacity, as the ability to communicate effectively across the cultural boundaries with respect, with the openness, and with adaptability. In practice, this means encouraging the students to engage with diverse perspectives rather than mastering the linguistic structures. So, the global competence in English education combines respectful communication, perspective taking, collaboration, adaptability, and active engage across the difference. So when we talk about the global competence in English education, we are not only referring to the language proficiency, so, but how the learners can communicate, but how the learners can interact, how the learners can connect across the cultures. In my experience, this competence is reflected through several interconnected dimensions, like develop respect for difference, where they begin to see diversity not as the problem, but as the valuable resource for the learnings, creating an inclusive classroom environments. The second one is through the perspective taking. The students can learn to understand how other think, how other feel, and how other can reduce the misunderstanding and build empathy in communication. And for the collaboration also is the key role, as language learning is social. This requires for the students to work together and share their idea. In addition, adaptability becomes essential as the learner adjusts their languages and behavior depending on different context and audience. So the students uh, will try to speak and behave depending how depending who they are talking to. And for the last one is adaptability develop when the students to different direction. All of this lead to a cross-cultural communication where English functions not merely as the subject, but as the bridge for meaningful interaction across the cultures. And from my experience in Taiwan, I observed that the students didn't need to speak perfectly. So the students just want to communicate effectively. The students just want to interact with other students to engage and then to express their idea, and they behave to connect with others. And the technology supports and not replace. Digital tools can extend access and multimodality, but sustainable learning still depends on human connection, value, intentional pedagogy. Yeah, while digital technology offers valuable tools for enhancing access and engagement, they still cannot replace by the human dimension of teaching. The sustainable learnings depend on meaningful interaction, depend on emotional connection, depend on intentional pedagogical design. So, therefore, the technology should be viewed as the support system, as a tools, rather than substitute for the teacher roles. And for me, the sustainable English language education grow when the culture is valued, global component is nurtured, and technology remain in service of human learning. So, in my experience teaching in Taiwan, has reaffirmed that English language education is inherently cultural and global in nature. Global teacher is not defined by linguistic background. So you don't need to worry. We are not from the native speakers. So it's okay. But the ability to navigate the complexity, to navigate the culture complexity, and the pedagogical practice, and the facilitate authentic to communicate. And ultimately, the future of English language education lies not in striving for the native like perfection, but in empowering learners to use English as a bridge for connecting to other cultures and other environment. And thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much for listening. Okay.
Thank you very much for Mr. Eddie for the insightful presentation. Please give a round of applause to all of our speakers for their amazing presentation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Now we will proceed to the discussion session. Each speaker will have the opportunity to respond up to 2 questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand using the raise hand features, or you can submit your question to the chat box and kindly indicate which speakers your question is directed to.
Princess treatment.
Please, ambek kanca dhewe ya bakal tak bukakno.
Nah ya. Aku iso lho kayak ngono dah.
Kon entuk panangan model kok ngono. Wis kon-kon ku metu.
No question? Oh. Okay, there is one question from Alma Dwi, please.
Okay, thank you. I want to ask Mr. Edi, Mr. Edi Suwandi. You highlighted that culture shapes learning through norms, routines, expectation, and relationships. How can English teachers make this cultural dimension visible in classroom practice?
Mr. Edi may directly answer the questions.
So, can you hear me? Because it's raining, right? Okay, Alma, thank you. In my slide, wait. In my slide, I say the student learn language to norm, learn language to routines, learn language to expectation, and also relationship. Yeah, when uh, in my experience, uh, I saw them. They learn how they can learn some of the same activity. So for example, like you give them the same activity, so the same the activity. So just want to build their confidence. I also their confidence on and they will uh, feel secure. They will feel comfort to interact, to respond, and also to speak English. And to the norm, actually, uh, they didn't allow to speak except we give them a chance or opportunity to speak. So they really has the high respect for the teachers also. And for the relationship, also they really care for each other. Even for example, like there is some of the students they cannot maybe they didn't understand uh, about the topic. They will have them. So this relationship will build the cultures to have the students to understand about different cultures, different relationship, and also they will grab to speak in English. So this is uh, like what I gave, what I took from the uh, class. They participate, they respond, and also they make the meaning.
Okay, are you satisfied with the answer, Miss Alma?
Yes, thank you, Mister.
Okay, we have
Um,
more question in chat box from Zahra from Harapan Bangsa University. And the question is directed to Dr. Al-Qasim. So the question is, in your view, how does the study of language in literature help learners develop not only critical thinking, but also ethical awareness and civic responsibility for sustainable futures? Dr. Al-Qasim? Hello, Dr. Al-Qasim. Can you hear my voice? Okay. Skip to the next question, maybe. Dr. Alka, please.
Yeah. May I request you to please repeat the question? There were certain
Okay.
technological issue. Yeah. Issues are
Okay.
coming in the connections. So may I just request to repeat the questions,
Okay.
please?
The question is from Zahra from Harapan Bangsa University. In your view, how does the study of language in literature help learners develop not only critical thinking, but also ethical awareness and civic responsibility for sustainable futures?
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's what I was elaborating. As I said, you see that literary textual discourses, as part of literary textual discourses, you get a lot of, you know, women's struggles, human struggles to procuring and secure their rights, fighting for the justice, developing resistance and resilience to the crisis situations, the troubles and tribulations that have been responsible for establishing equity, egalitarian society, and justice in so many affairs that is automatically evocative of the ethical responsibility and talks about the inspiration for the ethical responsibility for the kind of literature that should be taught as part of the classroom, that should be recognized and be made a prudent selection of the text for teaching humanitarian values, humanitarian rights, human rights, women rights, right to speak against the exploitation, right to speak against the sexual harassment at workplaces, right to so many statutes and acts that are evocative of the literature and the kind of language, being language sensitive as a teacher, as a scholar, as a receptor in the textual discourses and the narratives as part of the storytelling would sensitize the establishment of the judiciary and how the justice is negotiated, how there may be more prompts towards the negotiation of justice so far as recognizing these meaningful discourses in literature is concerned, and would definitely establish ethical and moral responsibility. Thank you so much.
Aduh, aku terlempar. Thank you very much, Dr. Alka. Okay, maybe because the time is limit, so I have to choose one question for each presenter. So the next question is come from Jimmy from Universitas Bina Nusantara, asked to Dr. Ira. In professional setting that often prioritize standard language use, how can
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Nurul. Thank you, Jimmy, for the questions. So in professional settings that often prioritize standard language use, how can translanguaging be accepted without being perceived as a lack of proficiency? Well, that's a very interesting question, Jimmy. First of all, we need to understand the definitions of translanguaging. So translanguaging is different from code mixing, it's different from interlanguaging. That translanguaging is the use of different language by mixing different language for the purpose of learning comprehensions. So it means that translanguaging can be accepted in professional settings when the language is used strategically, intentionally, and purposely. When you use translanguaging in that kind of situations, of course, you need to be audience aware that who are you talking to? Translanguaging is used to connect with the audience. For example, you want to emphasize some important points that you switch your language. People will understand that that's translanguaging. That's not just merely a code switching where you spontaneously move to other language because you don't know for example, English words. By being audience aware and by mixing or shifting the language purposely, I think that what situation that translanguaging can be accepted in professional context. Of course, we need to pay attention to the to our interlocutors. I think that's it. Did I answer your question, Jimmy?
It's clear, ma'am. Thank you so much. I get the point. Thank you so much. But anyway, I'm from Bina Nusantara, from Universitas Bina Sarana Informatika. Thank you.
Oh yes. Thank you, Jimmy, for from Bina Sarana Informatika.
Okay, our last questions come from Nora from Harapan Bangsa University to Ms. Trang Lee. The question is, what advice would you give to institutions that want to improve students' English readiness when learners are not highly motivated by traditional language classes?
Well, thank you for your question. You know, when I was young, I also asked myself the same kind of questions because,
Trang
you
Lee,
know,
your voice is not.
I'm sorry, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me, miss?
Yeah, clear. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
clear.
it's clear. It's clear, miss. You may continue.
So when I was young, I also asked myself the same questions because, you know, when I came to the class, some students were not paying attention at all. And that's also the reason why I need to change my teaching style. I want to make it as friendly as possible. Well, the additional support activities, I think I have presented in my presentation. So now I'm going to talk about what I normally do in my classroom. So it's not like a traditional classroom. You know, we all came here and we try to build a good teacher-student rapport. It is very important. And then I usually start my class with a game, you know, just as a way to interact with them, just to make sure that they don't see me as teacher. I want them to see me as a supporter, as their friend, as a collaborator. Like we will work together in order to help them achieve their English and their IELTS goals. So we play games, and then we also have some group activities where I would go around the classroom in order to monitor the process, just like make sure that they have enough vocabulary and grammar in order to express what they want to say. And then I also ask them to do homework, but it's not going to be like something big. I want them to think of English as something that they can play with. So the homework is very easy, and it's just a kind of way for them to, you know, remind themselves of what they have learned in class. So it can be in the it can be in the form of creating their own podcasts, or filming themselves introducing their friends, their family, and stuff like that. So it's not like a traditional English exercises where I ask them to like write down the answers and stuff like that. Yeah, try to make it as interactive and as fun as possible. Yeah, but thank you for your question. I hope this helped.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Strangli, for answering the question from Nora. And it has been very engaging and warm discussion. Thank you to all of the speaker and all of the participants for your valuable contribution. So ladies and gentlemen, because the time limit, as we come to the end of this panel session, we can conclude that the discussion today has highlighted the importance of innovation, collaboration, and also adapting in responding to development. Its panelist has provided valuable insight. We can learn from Dr. Trang Lee that she explored a student-centered teaching approach for demotivated learners by integrating English learning into meaningful activity the tradition. So after one academic year, the results show a significant increase in studies in students achieving the required IELTS score, indicating that contextualized and implicit language learning can effectively support this engaged learner. From Dr. Akarsing, we learned that interdisciplinary approach to English language education by integrating language, literature, and law to support education. It highlights how literacy takes through themes of justice, identity, and resistance can foster critical thinking, ethical awareness, and also global competence when combined with legal perspective on right and governance. From Dr. Ira Mutiara Ningrum, we explore a best practice in vocational English foreign language classroom that shifts students from passive recipient of knowledge to active, productive communication through the use of translanguaging and multimodal business communication. And the last speakers, Mr. Eddie, PhD, we gain that English education by integrating academic insight with classroom practice, emphasizing the influence of culture on teaching and learning in EFL context. So the discussion highlight global competence as the key goal, stressing the need for intercultural awareness, adaptability, and effective communication alongside with language skill. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the organizer, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to our distinguished speakers for the insightful contribution and also the audience for your active participation. This has been a very engaging and enriching session. We truly hope that discussion has provided valuable insight for all of us. So I would like to hand over the session to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you to all of the participants and thank you to all of the speakers.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much to our moderator, Dr. Nurul Hasana, and all the speakers for the insightful session. Let's give them big applause, ladies and gentlemen. Now I will take over of the session. Ladies and gentlemen, please also note that this conference is conducted over 2 days, and all participants are required to join both day 1 and day 2 of the conference as part of the full conference participation. In addition, the attendance form for day 1 has been shared in the Zoom chat box and also our WhatsApp group. Please, everyone, fill it correctly, since the data inserted will be recorded in the certificates. Furthermore, the reward announcement will be delivered during the closing ceremony on day 2 of the conference. We encourage all presenters and also participants to attend the closing ceremony to receive the final updates and important announcements. For all others, we would also like to kindly remind you that you are encouraged to remain in the Outers WhatsApp group until your papers are completely published, as the group will serve as the main communication channel for publications updates and further coordinations. Ladies and gentlemen, before we officially close this event, let's take a picture together, everyone. So please turn on your cameras. All right, is everyone ready? All right. So please be ready, everyone. I will count 3, 2, 1. All right, again, 3, 2, 1. All right, once again, everyone, 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you very much, ladies and
Please,
gentlemen.
again.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of our panel sessions and the closing for day 1. We would also like to express our sincere gratitude to all speakers, the moderators, and all participants for your active participations and also valuable contributions. We hope today's sessions has been insightful and also beneficial for all of us. Please kindly note that our conference will continue on day 2 and all participants are expected to attend the sessions until the end of the conference. Thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. Have a pleasant day and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sinyalnya.